Hi, everyone. I'm Al, co-founder and chief strategist at Social Annex. I hope everyone had a great long weekend and excited to be here. So this is great for me personally because it's about a 2-mile drive from our office and 2.5-mile drive from home. So the perfect summit to be at, where you can go in the morning, get back in the evening, and you're not as tired and you're still back to your kids. So it's great. So before I introduce our first speaker for today, I'm going to give you a little bit of an introduction of Social Annex and how our partnership with OneStop came about. As a founder, you always talk about founding stories. So I'll talk a little bit about the founding story of Social Annex. 6 years ago, I was running e-commerce for a company called Teleflora. Teleflora is based here in West LA, $300 million e-commerce retailer. And during that time, we had a lot of grassroots ideas of how we could make our customers loyal. Now, at that time, we're selling flowers 3 times a year, peak seasons. The rest of the time, we're kind of struggling. But 75% of orders, and we were doing a lot of orders with $300 million. So, during that time, we had this idea of energizing our customers and making them loyal so that they could remember us on an ongoing basis. And we wanted to turn them into advocates. So we started very grassroots programs at that time. We would bring people into our offices with new product launches. We would take our top customers and give them ways to syndicate content, give them ways to tell their friends, so that during those peak seasons, we had real loyal customers and advocates that would talk about us. And off that, the idea of Social Annex came about. Social Annex is a partner of OneStop. Social Annex is a customer loyalty and advocate marketing solutions provider. And our story is very similar to OneStop in the sense of we bring all the products within the advocate marketing solutions together in one suite. So imagine, you're a customer that buys from you, and now they have a loyalty program and they get some, rewards through the loyalty program. And then they refer their friends and they would get some rewards from that program. And then they write a review and they hashtag images on Instagram and they participate in contests, all these activities that they're doing essentially to become a loyal customer and then an advocate. All these different tools that they're using are all brought together within one solution suite within Social Annex. So we've been a partner with OneStop for about 3 years now as a company, since the 6 years when I told my wife, I have this idea, we want to start this company. From there, we've gone to now serve over 250 brands with over 150 employees in the company spread across 3 continents, here in Los Angeles, in the UK, and Asia. So great to be here and proud and very happy to be a partner of OneStop over the last few years. That story was interesting as well, by the way. We had a couple of people that were interested in our solutions, and I messaged 3 people I knew to get me an intro into OneStop, and within 30 minutes we were, introduced. So Social played a big role in us kind of partnering with OneStop a few years ago as well. So excited to be here. I want to introduce our first speaker for today, Chris. Chris is the founder and CEO of Silverback Social. He is the author of Remarkable You. He is a personal branding expert, so we'll definitely learn a lot from him today on that aspect. And then he is also the founder of Westchester Digital Summit, Westchester in New York, because there's one right here as well. He told me the way he wanted me to introduce him was he's a fast-speaking Italian guy from New York. So please welcome Chris Dessi.
Behind that podium. Good morning, everybody. Did you guys have barbecue this past weekend, Memorial Day weekend? You guys do barbecue in California? Yeah? Yeah? Clap if you did barbecue. All right, barbecue. That's good. All right. It's Memorial Day weekend. So I'm really excited to be here. I got agita. They're like, yeah, you're going to be the first speaker. I was like, you got to be kidding me. The first speaker. That's ridiculous. Kicking things off. You guys get agita here? Any Italian people here? Everybody know what agita is? Little upset stomach? So we're going to talk about a couple of different things today. We're going to talk about social media. We're going to talk about personal brand building. And then we're going to talk a little bit about life because I'm up here and I feel like talking about life. So you guys can't stop me from talking about life. The reason why we're going to be talking about personal brand building is because I followed my big Italian nose for the past about 8 or 9 years and kind of weaseled my way into this social media ecosystem. But we're going to talk about 4 very particular things. And the 4 things are innovation in social media and personal brand building starts with you. And I mean that literally. I don't mean like it starts with your organization and it starts with your mission statement and it starts with your vision and values. It literally starts with you as an individual. And then we're going to talk about taking the shot up the middle and why that's so important. And we're going to talk about the idea that you are all remarkable in this room. I guarantee that. I promise that. And then we're going to talk about the idea of fight or flight. And we're going to talk about why I think it's important that everybody in this room needs to become a little bit more of a fighter and not acquiesce to all of the things that they're dealing with in their entire lives. So, of course, the advancer's not working on the first click. Let's see what we got here. There we go. So we're going to start off talking a little bit about my father. So I was thinking about Memorial Day weekend. I was spending the weekend with my beautiful family, and I'm also thinking of the fact that Father's Day is coming up soon. So I started thinking about my dad and the lessons that he's taught me. And I also started thinking about the beautiful little girls, whoops, sorry, having trouble with the advancer here. Not sure why it's not going to the next slide. Little help? There we go. Next slide. Cool. These are the beautiful little girls that have turned me into a dad. Can you imagine that, right? It was the first time I met Talia. She's 8 years old. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm a father, and little Olivia. And they've taught me lessons over the course of time, and I think that that's going to be applicable to some of the lessons that we're going to talk about today. So innovation starts with you. What do I mean by innovation starting with you? So we're going to start off with social media, and we're going to start off with the printing press, right? Because social media is about communication. And about 500 years ago, there's a gentleman by the name of Clay Shirky. He did a TED Talk, and he starts talking about why social media was impactful. And in 500 years ago, the printing press is invented. And this becomes a pivotal point in communication, because prior to that, as individuals, when we would communicate, we would just be like, hey, Dan, where'd you get that nice shirt? He would tell me. I'd be like, oh, it's a super blue shirt. Hey, guys, you hear that? He got that blue shirt at this one store. And that's how information passed. And that was all well and good. But when information passed like that, things started to change, because now all of a sudden advertisers realized that they could publish content from one to many, that they could push information out, and they could, politicians could also put forth propaganda. And this became a cultural shift. This became something that wasn't just about a one-to-one communication. This became a one-to-many communication. And as time went on, different bits of tools, inventions, changed the way we communicated. There was the radio, there was television, there were movies, and all of these things were really impactful to communicate, to entertain, and that was all very well and good. However, there was a shift as the content became a little bit more advanced, as television came along and radio came along, and the reason being is because it became a shared experience, right? So I don't know if you guys remember, I feel like when I think about radio, I think about like an image of little boys sitting on the floor listening to a radio show, and they have like a raccoon hat on, they're listening to the Lone Ranger. And that was the first time I realized, I was like, wait, people listen to the radio for entertainment? They don't just listen to like Mike and Mike on sports radio? I think that's incredible. And it became a shared experience, and this became a defining moment. And as time goes on, we have movies and we have television, we have all these different shared experiences. And I think back to when I was a freshman at Loyola University in Maryland, and it became a social experience for us to watch Beverly Hills 90210, right? And we'd invite the girls over into the guys' dorm. We'd all sit down, we'd talk about what happened the previous week, what was going to happen this week, and what was going to happen in the future week. And it shifted everything. It changed the way we dressed. It changed how long my sideburns were. Changed everything, right? And it became this shared cultural experience. And that was really, really powerful. And then all of a sudden in the late 90s, this amazing thing, about the time that I got involved in the internet shows up, right? Remember, like that horrible sound you had to plug in. My roommates, we lived on the Upper East Side in this junky little one-bedroom apartment that we turned into a three-bedroom apartment. Don't tell the landlord. We had 3 of us packed in this apartment. I used to plug into the wall, and I would pull out my laptop, and I would go online. I'm like, this is going to be it. This is the future. This is so incredible. And that was all really compelling. But what I need you guys to think about today when it comes to social media is this idea, is that all of those inventions for social media, the printing press, television, movies, all of that is rolled into that first iteration of the internet from the late 90s. and that's social media. So what the heck do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that innovation starts with you. And no longer do you need to go to a newspaper guy that sits in the big corner office and say, please talk about my business. Please talk about everything that I'm doing. Let me stroke a check for you to run an ad in that newspaper, because you could start a blog. And no longer do you have to go to a radio station and say, please run an ad in your radio station. Please talk about my business on my radio station, because you could start a podcast. And certainly no longer, we all know this, no longer do you have to go to a television station and stroke a check to run an ad on a television station. When was the last time anyone in this room watched a commercial? Can you think back? Like, maybe the Super Bowl? Maybe, because they're cool. I don't watch commercials. My daughters certainly don't watch commercials, right? Because you are the creator. And that's my call to action for you. Innovation starts with you today. Innovation starts with you. Stop being a passive consumer and start creating the content. Start creating the newspaper. Start creating the radio station. Start creating the television show, and start creating the movies. So innovation starts with you. So this is a slide that I had my team put together. It's very technical. You guys can take pictures now, tweet it out. I'll get you my sources later. These are the people that are using social media, and I think 1%, I think they might be dead. We're not certain about that. So here's the reality, right? I'm not here to be like, yeah, dude, get on social media. This is really about you guys as individuals to take control of what your organization is doing within social media, have a voice with what they're doing in social media, and to control and monitor and create content around your own personal brand identity. Because 60% of us have checked their phone in bed. I'm guilty. Yes. Anybody else? 70% of us, and I'm certainly guilty of this as well, have checked their phone when there's not even an indicator saying that somebody's emailed me or called me or anything, just checking the phone, randomly checking the phone. They've done studies where they said that it's the same portion of your brain flares up when you get one of those notifications as from ripping a line of cocaine. I mean, I remember late 90s, it was awesome. Woo! But, come on. Here's a really impactful statistic. 35% of individuals by 2018 will have access to a smartphone. And this is the compelling thing, right? Fred Wilson at Lay Web was talking about this, and I think this is really, like, take for a minute, try and wrap your brain around this. Third world nations and developing countries, like, how many of you in this room remember the big, ugly computer that you had that you were stuck to your desk, right? With the big modem and the hard, like, it was crazy. Like, you were like, remember kids, all the millennials, they don't, I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah, we had to sit there. We didn't have these smartphones in our back pockets. What's happened is those third world nations, developing countries, they don't get to experience that. They won't experience that pain of actually being locked to their desk because they went from nothing, like literally nothing, to all of a sudden have it, boom, mega computer in their pocket. Oh, those punks. We had to wait for years to get this. But 35% of the world's population by 2018 will have access to smartphones. That's a beautiful kid. This is what you're competing with in social media. Oh, well, Chris, we use it to publish content. If you're a retailer and you're putting pictures about jeans on as a retailer and you're trying to persuade my wife why she had to buy me these skinny jeans and they're really tight on me. I was comfortable in my other jeans, but she said, Chris, you got to buy the skinny jeans. You're competing with baby pictures. You're competing with engagement announcements. You're competing with individuals that are experiencing life. So when you tell me that you're just posting stock photography of your shoe company for your Facebook posts or your Twitter posts or even your Instagram posts, come on, people. Come on. When you have 3,000 Facebook followers and you're a major jeans brand that might be in this room and 16 people are liking your post, you're doing it wrong. 300,000 people and 16 people are liking your post. You have to have reverence for the platform. You have to understand that you are competing with beautiful baby pictures like this. You need to think about the content that you're posting. You need to not repurpose a PR announcement in social media. You need to take the time to curate your content. Oh, you millennials. Where are the millennials? Raise your hands. Yeah. I love you guys, really, I do. I love you, because all my clients are like, oh, you got to talk to the millennials. But I also employ a lot of you. And you punks, about 2 weeks ago, I asked my entire team, I made a reference to Animal House. Not one of you fools have seen Animal House, not one. In my agency, I posted on Facebook, what do I do, people? Everybody, fire them. Fire every single one, start from the beginning. That's my recommendation. If there's one thing you pull from what I'm talking about today, millennials, please watch Animal House for the greater good of the world, please. So we understand this. The trouble with social media is social media, right? People are distracted, people are engaging their content, but listen, here's the Gen Xers. I'm Gen X, I'm 41, right? The Gen Xers, we need to understand. We see this, we get annoyed. We're like, oh, come on, look at it, look at me. Look at what makes you think that the stuff you're talking about is more important than what they're looking at, right? Like, think about that for a second. They're content creators. They're generating content. They're taking my marching orders and they're blogging. And they're taking my marching orders and they're creating movies online. And they're generating their own content and they're curators of their own content. And that's hugely compelling. It's also kind of a pain in the neck, but it just is. And you might want to consider Snapchat, right? Because there's 1 billion stories viewed per day, which is absolutely ridiculous. And also the fact that 76% of those individuals that are on there viewing those videos purchase products online, so you might want to consider having a strategy around that. 73% are the amazing millennials, sick of hearing about it, whatever, millennials. 58% would likely purchase a product from a brand that sent them a Snapchat coupon. That's crazy. Oh, Chris, we don't have a strategy around Snapchat because, you know, we're still working on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. We're finally getting our act together because that was 5 years ago, and now we have a team, and we started off with interns, and now we have 2 people managing your team? What? You're a multi-million-dollar organization. You have 2 people internally that are managing your team that are dictating how individuals perceive your brand, how individuals are embracing your brand, and they're generating content around your brand. But you have 2 people managing social media internally? Ridiculous. So Olivia, let's talk about my baby girl, Olivia. What did Olivia teach me? Ah, this kid, look at that face. We were in Disney last spring. That was her. She was driving. It was hysterical. I couldn't stop laughing. She just took over the wheel and she was going. What Olivia's taught me is, we talked about innovation starts with you. The second one is take the shot up the middle. Olivia taught me how to take the shot up the middle. So I'm going to show you how we run the video. Watch this. This is just a proud papa. I'm just going to indulge in it. Look at the footwork. Yeah! All right, lucky 7. Good girl. You want to know why she said 7? She scored 13 goals that day. That was her 7th goal. I posted on Facebook. My friend's like, time to work on passing, okay? Like, oh, sorry, man. Anyway, here's why that's important, right? So the smart guys, Steve Dubner and Steven, I forget the other guy's last name, 2 Stevens, Think Like a Freak. That book was really important, and it had a profound lesson in it. Profound lesson. They talked about World Cup penalty kicks, okay? And when they talked about the World Cup penalty kicks, what they did is they did a statistical analysis, because they're much smarter than I am. They went through and they analyzed all the different penalty kicks that had taken over all the different games, and they realized something that was really profound, truly profound. Individuals that took a shot up the middle would have a higher percentage and likelihood of scoring a goal. However, the percentage of players that knew this was very high, but almost none of them took the shot up the middle, even though they knew the statistics were higher in a probability and likelihood of them scoring a flipping goal. But they didn't do it. Why do you think they didn't do it? They were scared. They were terrified of losing face. And to miss a goal, but have the goalie hit it off to the side, was less embarrassing to them than taking a shot up the middle and the goalie just catching it. Let that sink in for a second. Let that sink in for a second. So they're not taking the shot up the middle. It's been proven to them that they can score every single time, but they're not doing it. They won't take that shot up the middle. Doesn't that seem a little ridiculous to you? Innovation starts with you, and take the shot up the middle. If you know it's right, and you know it's going to work for your team, and you know it's going to work for your company, take the shot up the middle. So, this damn thing. Olivia taught me another lesson. When we were talking about taking the shot up the middle, she taught me a lesson, but she was much younger when she taught me this lesson. She was a few months old. My wife and I are sitting downstairs in our den, and we're watching television. And how many parents do we have in the room? Parents, by show of hands, right? So there's a decent amount of parents. Cool. So we're sitting in our living room, and we hear a sound from upstairs in the bedroom, and it's a guttural, bad sound. Like you know when your babies cry, and it's like you're like, yeah, you're fine, get up, rub some dirt on it. But you know when you hear something bad. So I hear like, ugh, and I pop out of the chair, and I run, and I see my wife's face, and she turns white. We run up the steps. I run as fast as I can. I scoop her out of her crib. She's a couple of months old. My oldest daughter is now 3 years old. She comes out. She's, Daddy, what's wrong? Daddy, what's wrong? I'm like, I don't know. I look at my wife. My wife says, she's seizing. She's seizing. And I start to freak out. I'm like, oh, my God, she's seizing. I have no idea what to do. There's part of me, I'm like mortified that I don't know what to do. And I'm looking at her, and her head is wobbling, and I'm getting nothing. No breath, nothing. And I'm like, oh, my God, my baby's going to die in my arms. And I look at my 3-year-old, and she's looking at me. I'm her daddy. I'm supposed to be in the room, and I'm supposed to be saving the world. And my wife is looking at me, and my wife is starting to cry. And literally, like, I'm feeling that part of me. I'm like, I'm ready to cry because I think my baby is going to die in my arms. And I'm looking at them, and I say, call 911. We call 911, and I run out to the front of my house. I run out as fast as I can. The reason why I ran out to the front of the house, 2 reasons. One, I wanted to meet the ambulance at the corner, and I wanted to have them get my baby and get out of there. And 2, I didn't want my 3-year-old to see her sister die, and I didn't want my wife to see her sister die. And I'm running through, and I get to the ambulance, put her in the ambulance, take care of her. She's fine. It was called a febrile seizure. Normal thing. Normal thing for infants, but it was terrifying. EMT worker comes in. He comes down. He's like, "Sir, she's fine. Don't worry." And I'm sweating. I'm sweating right now when I'm telling. So I sweat through my clothes. Moment of levity. He looks at me. He's like, "Sir, we've only got enough oxygen for the baby. Please, I need you to sit down and relax." I'm like, "Oh my God! I just thought I was going to lose my baby." And the next day, we're in the hospital. They kept her overnight for tests, and she was perfectly fine. She's now a very healthy 5-year-old that scores 13 goals per game. But it dawned on me, it was right around the 10th anniversary of September 11th. And I'm literally sitting in the hospital, and all I'm hearing about on TV, on CNN, 10th anniversary of September 11th, 10th anniversary of September 11th. And I sit down, and I write a blog post. And I start writing the blog, and I write the blog about this handsome guy that's up on the screen right now. His name is Sean Lugano. He was the captain of my rugby team at Loyola University in Maryland. And he was murdered that day. And for the first time in my adult life, it dawned on me what his parents might have gone through, because I thought I was going to lose my daughter that day. And I wrote this blog post, and the first comment on the blog post was from this woman. She's like, "I'm confused. I thought this is a blog about social media. Why are you talking about September 11th? You know what happened? The rest of the community was like, and they shut it down. They were like, "No, we want to hear this." And it was the first time in my career and in my adult life that I shared something from my gut that I experienced. Take the shot up the middle. When I posted that content, it was read by hundreds of thousands of people on my blog about social media. Dude, I send tweets for a living, right? But on my blog about social media, I would meet people, and this is going to sound a little ridiculous. I closed deals because of this. Because when I walk into a conference room, people look at me. I lost 5 friends on September 11th. And when I wrote the content, it came from a pure, organic place. Because I wrote the blog post really as a letter to Sean's parents of me saying, oh my God, like I was upset when Sean died. I was so upset. I was 26 years old, but I was too young. I was really too young to realize it, because now I'm married. I had 2 beautiful kids. I was living in Bucolic, Chappaqua, New York. I had a beautiful wife. I had a great life. And I was pissed. Sean didn't get an opportunity to experience that. Take the shot up the middle. When you know something is going to resonate with other human beings, put that shit out into the world. It will come back tenfold to you, I promise. One of our account managers at Silverback Social was managing the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And similarly, you could tell I preached this, right, internally within my organization. Found a photograph of a little girl, Michaela, and was concerned. Chris, do we post this? I don't know if we post this. We never post unsolicited content from our brand partners. And we go through all these checkpoints for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. We put a watermark on the photograph. And it was this little girl, Michaela I can't even read it. Michaela just kicked cancer's butt. Join us in celebrating this beautiful little girl's last day of chemo. Not one word about stroking a check for LLS. Not one word asking for money. Previously, all they did was ask for money. Previously, all they did was talk about money-making opportunities for LLS. This post was seen by 17 million people in 2015. 17. How much money do you think we spent on that? None. We didn't boost it. We didn't use it as an ad unit. Organically, 17 million people saw that. Why? Because at my agency, I preach taking the shot up the middle and following your gut. One of the kids read this and got choked up and was like, this is going to work. This is really going to work. It's human content. Talia, my oldest. See, I told you we were just going to tell some stories. Look at that face. This guy's a little too close to her, that little punk, but whatever. This is her first Holy Communion. She's going to be a nun. We're Sicilian, right to the convent. So what Talia's taught me, she looks all sweet there, but this is her real nature. Like, check her out. Yeah, little boy's trying to chase. He's got pink pants. Get out of here. He's trying to chase her. Come on. So what she taught me was that you are remarkable, that everybody in this room is remarkable. People are like, Chris, personal brand building. What am I going to blog about? I'm an account manager. Chris, what am I going to blog? I don't want to give away trade secrets. Oh, shut up. Trade secrets. Talk about what you're experiencing as a human being, as an adult. What's your life look like? What are you going through? That's the content that you talk about. Everybody's got something to share. So hold on, before you hit play on this, the little girl playing the piano is not my daughter. The one taking the selfie and articulating exactly what's about to happen, pardon the quality of this, it was taken by an 8-year-old. She knows she's remarkable, but wait. The reason why this is compelling is because 2 weeks prior to this video being taken, 2 weeks, was my 8-year-old daughter's first piano lesson. And the reason why it's compelling, wait for it, she didn't just learn 2 or 3 songs. She decided it was cool to teach her friend the 2 or 3 songs that she had learned. And this is a concert that her friend did. Hit play.
Amazing Allison Gordon! Woo! Are you ready? She's playing Old MacDonald Had a Farm. Go.
Here's the rub. Don't you think that that's amazing? That an 8-year-old didn't just take the lesson, but she realized that she was remarkable enough to teach someone, to pass that information on? Chris, I don't know what to blog about. Come on, guys. We're all in this room. We can all embrace this. History will be kind to me, for I intend to write it. History will be kind to me, for I intend to write it. If you don't understand, this is another very, very complicated graph that I put together. Very complicated. If you're good at what you do, cool, you should be in this room. If you're not good enough to be in this room right now, or to generate content, or write a blog post on LinkedIn, or create your own blog content, get out. Seriously, like get out. Go someplace else. You don't belong in this room. You shouldn't be in this room. And if you're generating that content and you're showing social proof, what happens? It's a magical thing. People trust you. People trust what comes out of your mouth. People trust the content that you generate. People understand the way you think. So now, I figured all of this out in a very difficult manner. As I explained earlier, I followed my big Italian nose. So I was a director of sales in 2007, and I wanted to be a vice president of sales. And the reason why that's important is because I kept sending my resume to HR recruiters, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a vice president of sales. This is going to be great. I was at my company. It was a great company, but I loved my boss, and I wasn't going to try and go for his job. I wanted to go elsewhere and be a VP of sales. And my wife was pregnant with my first daughter. I wanted to buy that nice house in Chappaqua. I needed some more dough. So I'd go to the HR manager, and I'd be like, hey, HR manager, I want to be a vice president of ad sales. What did the HR manager do? They sent me on interviews for other director of sales jobs. And I'm like, you guys don't get it, right? I'm going to be a vice president of sales. I'm awesome at this. I am awesome at this. Like, Chris, listen, your resume says that you were a director of sales for 4 years, and that's all very well and good. We're going to send you on these interviews, and they're going to pay you $10,000 to $15,000, maybe even $20,000 more a year. And I was like, no, screw that. I need to buy a house in Chappaqua. You know how expensive that is to buy a house in Chappaqua? I need a big signing bonus. And I was so confused as to what to do. sales and marketing guy. I'm not very bright. I sat down. I'm like, I need to start a blog. First blog post, January of 2007, is about MySpace. Who remembers MySpace? Holy shit, right? I'd read a Harvard Business Review article about the fatal flaw of pay for performance, right? And they talked about CEOs getting into trouble for pay for performance. I worked at an ad network, and the ad network was all functioning on pay for performance. I thought that was really compelling. I write the blog post, my first blog post ever. I send it to the HR manager. She sends it to the hiring manager at the ad network that was based in Berlin. It was called Xanax, not Xanax, but Xanax. Big German guy. I sit down in front of him. I've got the resume, go on the interview to be a vice president of ad sales. He pushes my resume aside. Chris, I want to talk to you about your blog post. It's fascinating. I got to understand how your brain works. I love it. You've got the job. $260,000 earned from one blog post. One blog post. Because I showed the world how smart I was. And if you don't think you can write content about your industry, about what you do on a day-to-day basis, once again, the door's right there. Get out. So how do we build our personal brand? Figure out who your audience is. Who are you talking to? Who are you appealing to? Who are you trying to stir up? Who are you trying to motivate? Who are you trying to get going? Who do you want to know about your brand? Maybe you're writing blog content, and listen, I'm a buyer. Maybe I'm working in retail. Who are those individuals that you want to talk to? Develop your message. Is your message fun and quirky? Is it irreverent? My stuff, I talk about everything. Listen, from the Sean Lugano post, when I started talking about that, I stopped talking about social media. For my blog content, I started reaching out to people that inspired me, and I would interview them, and I'd put them on my blog content. There's nothing stopping anyone in this room from doing that. There's nothing. Oh, but Chris, I just started at this job. I don't know anybody. That's how you get to know people. Feature every executive within your organization on your blog content, and I think people will read the content. Oh, I could do that? Yeah, you could do that. There we go. Research publications. You want to get published? You want to go a little bit bigger? Figure out what publications are in your vertical that people are reading and people are figuring out that that's the resource for you. Great. You go ahead and you generate that content specifically for that publication, and you reach out to editors and you say, listen, I've written these 15 blog posts. I'd like to be a contributor. First time I figured that out, I wanted to get involved in social media. And after I bought the URL, who here does it? I saw on the roster that there's going to be somebody from Facebook. Where's the person from you? I wanted to get involved in social media, so wait for it, right? So I was the VP of ad sales, and I wanted to get involved in social media, and I was blogging from my blog, which is creatively named chrisdessi.com. But I was blogging from that chrisdessi.com, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, well, listen, I want to get involved in social media, so I want to work with Facebook. How do I get the attention of Facebook? So I bought the URL for a whopping $7.99. FacebookShouldHireMe.com. Genius! Genius! I still own the URL. Anybody wants it, talk to me later. You can buy it from me. You didn't hire me, whatever. I did fine. You know, didn't hurt my feelings. Here's the rub. Leveraging the technology to get attention to somebody. Facebook didn't hire me, and that was all very well and good, but Fortune magazine featured creative ways of getting hired in our modern world. This is when the economy was imploding. I got fired 3 times in 2 years. It was a great time. It was awesome. They featured me in Fortune magazine. I put the magazine under my arm, and I went and I got a job at a company called Buddy Media. Buddy Media was later acquired for close to $1 billion by Salesforce. I'd say it worked out. And it was pretty cool because the guy that got me into social media, that got me motivated about social media, was Gary Vaynerchuk. And Gary incubated VaynerMedia in the Buddy Media offices. So I got to see my hero working every day side by side by Mike and Cass Lazaro while they were building Buddy Media. It was cool. Lazaro fired me after 1 year and 3 months, so you could talk to him about that, or we could talk about that over cocktails. But whatever, it still worked out. And Facebook didn't hire me, but that's all right. That's fine. Because I researched the publications and I figured out who the people were that I wanted to talk to, and I proactively went and I grabbed them by the throat. And I said, you need to pay attention to me. Test topic ideas. Oh, I don't know what to write about. I'm not sure what type of content to write about. I'm not sure where to start. Just test them. This is the fun part about social media. You publish the content and nobody reads it, so what? And you start writing content. Chris, I'm not a writer. I'm not a writer either. I'm not a very good writer, but I've written 3 books. I'm going to show you how. Come on. There we go. If you don't have a blog, if you don't own firstnamelastname.com, do it today. Go to my blog, chrisdessi.com, step by step, 28 steps for you to create your own personal blog. If you're not going to generate content to build your personal brand, I don't care. Just squat on it, just so that you own it, for the SEO, for the benefit of having that URL. There's even a screen grab. It's a really cute screen grab. I'm like, okay, click here. Great. Click there. Good. Okay. Download this, upload that, and at the end of it, in 15 minutes or less, you'll have your own personal blog, and you can start generating content from there. Or the magical world of LinkedIn, publish a post and generate content. I'm not sure what's going to work, Chris. I don't care. Persist. These are actual blog posts that I've written. 6 reasons why Banjo is the most powerful app. 328 people. What? That was a great blog post. Only 328 people read that? That's ridiculous. That's annoying. Funny little story about a seriously big mistake. Only 117 people read that? That is really annoying because that was a great piece of content. But I persisted. It was April 29th, I posted one, April 23rd, April 22nd, April 11th, April 9th, April 8th, and then boom. Want to be successful, get angry. 35,000 people read it. How long do you think it took me to write that blog post? 20 minutes. Why? Because I got angry. And I realized that in my career, every point in my career, the only way that I had advanced my career was I got a little bit uncomfortable. I got a little bit frustrated about where I was, and that's what I wrote about. I wrote truth. I wrote what was going on in my life at that time. I wasn't reaching, trying to generate content. I wasn't trying to figure out what other individuals on LinkedIn were posting, and I wasn't trying to mimic anybody else. I followed my truth, and I generated my own personal content. You want to be a better writer? Install Hemingway app. Nobody pays me to do this, but this is what I use. Hemingway app makes me a better writer. Why? Because we've all been poisoned with marketing speak. We've all been poisoned with trying to make our words sound flowery and big. Those SATs scarred us when we were in high school. We wanted to learn about big words. Don't worry about the big words, because simple is hard. Succinct is hard. And Hemingway app will teach you how to do that. Hemingway app, it's called Hemingway app because apparently he wrote Old Man on the Sea at a 4th grade reading level. New York Times has written it about a 7th grade reading level. You can see it highlights words. It tells you what to take out, tells you what to add. It teaches you how to actually become a better writer. It's a really powerful tool. And spoon feed it. Top 10 things to look for when hiring a sort of balding New York Italian personal branding expert. If you spoon feed the title of the content that you're writing, if you literally direct people to you and what you're writing about and the content that you're doing, thinking about what people are going to potentially Google, that's how you get more readers. Or you can leverage CoSchedule. CoSchedule doesn't pay me for this. It's just what I use. Now that for my column on Inc.com, this is how I figure out the titles, right? So the first thing, 10 things I love about California. Got great. Who's competitive here? If you're competitive, you're going to love this. Get a 72. 10 things I love about California. 77, 10 unusual things I love about California. 76, 10 unusual things you should love about California. 10 remarkable things that will surprise you about California. Gets an 81. That's the best one. That's how you figure out what the title of the content should be. Common words, uncommon words, emotional words, and powerful words. It grades your content. And it teaches you how to write a headline that will get attention and will grab individuals to read the content that you're creating. On the back end of CoSchedule, once you created that amazing blog, I leverage this so that I am everywhere. So now I'm in LA, but I'm in New York, Guinea. Content's being published right now through all my social places, through my Twitter account, through my LinkedIn account, through all of those different social places it's being posted. Scaling. And then it tells me what's working and what's not working and how I can generate content for those different platforms where it resonated for different individuals, whether it be LinkedIn, whether it be Facebook, or whether it be Twitter. SumoMe plugin. If you really want to take your personal branding to the next level, you should be generating emails. You should be aggregating individuals' emails when they come to your blog content. SumoMe allows for you to not only see a heat map, but also aggregate those emails. And if you really want to get creative, you can put it on the back end of Infusionsoft and create iterative emails. That's the iterative email line items. Iterative email and preemptive marketing like this from Infusionsoft is to marketing what compound interest is to finance, right? So you go to my blog and you give me your email address. I give you the first chapter of my book for free, fair trade, right? Lead magnet. Once you get into that pipeline, I have definitive reverence for you. Once every 5 or 6 days, I send a gentle email, and I'm giving. I'm giving you a white paper 101 on LinkedIn. I'm giving you a white paper 101 on building your personal brand, all of that content. And then I might say, hey, listen, the Kindle version of my book is like $6.99, but if money is tight, come on over for free and check out Remarkable You, the podcast. So I'm being gentle, and having reverence for all of that content. And now you have equity. And now you could drive those individuals anywhere you'd potentially want to drive them. And of course, we've all heard about Help a Reporter Out, right? Everybody's heard of that? You register for Help a Reporter Out. You get an email every single morning. Peter Shankman, brilliant guy that created that. And reporters are looking for you. They're looking for everyone in this room. And they want to talk to you. And that's how you growth hack the heck out of everything that is going on in your ecosystem. Let's talk about Dad. So my dad taught me how to fight. Look at that handsome guy. When I was like 20 years old, when I was too old to be getting into a fight, I was 20 years old, I got into a fight. My dad saw it, my hand was all cut up. And he sits me down, he has a conversation. I was like, oh, what, Dad? You never got into a fight? And he looks at me straight face. He's like, Christopher, I grew up in Brooklyn and my name is Adrian. What do you think? I was like, oh, yeah, you got me on that one. So my dad taught me how to fight and be a fighter and kind of like stand for what I know is right and good and stand for what I know is going to work. And it reminds me of, there was this one specific moment where I was talking to the team at AccuWeather, and the president at AccuWeather was actually the founder of AccuWeather, multi-million-dollar organization. And I'm in this conference room, and the guy's not paying attention to me. And he pretends to ask this half-assed question. And he asked the question, and I looked at him, and there's 30 people in the conference room while I'm presenting. And he asked the question, he picks his head up from a salad that he was eating. And he asked a question that I just answered 2 slides before. And I said, you're not paying attention. He's like, oh, of course I am. And everybody stiffens up. Oh, of course I am. And I'm like, no, obviously you're not. I went through it. I'll show you again. We're talking about growth hacking, and we're talking about working with this guy, Bat Dad. It's going to be really compelling. And he's like, no, this isn't going to work. I don't even know what this is. What is this growth hacking thing? But I fought for it. I fought for it. And I pushed this guy, and I pushed him back against the wall. At the end of the meeting, the guy actually loved me because he's like, all right, this kid's a fighter. He understands what he's talking about. Fine, we're going to do it. We can hit play.
Where's his jacket? Did you check the temperature, the wind speed, the cloud cover?
Did you check the humidity?
So now that's Bat Dad. Who's heard of Bat Dad? Bat Dad's got millions of followers on Vine. For a few $1,000s, we pushed this through with AccuWeather, and it was seen by about 3 million people. And it was the first time that this president of AccuWeather had actually experienced anything like that. And he was, and now to talk about efficiencies, if he was going to be able to get in front of those millions of people, it would have cost him hundreds of thousands of dollars. And for less than $10,000, we were able to leverage something that was creative and that was different. So let's go back and go through those points. Innovation starts with you. But you guys you're gonna placate me, and I'm gonna tell one final story. Innovation starts with you. And we understand how social media has changed the landscape, and I'm encouraging all of you to build your personal brands and understand that it starts with you. Take the shot up the middle, the lesson that Olivia taught us. You are remarkable, the lesson that Talia taught us. And to fight, the lesson that my father Adrian taught us. But if you'll indulge me, one last story. Remember I said we're going to talk about social media and personal branding, and we're going to talk a little bit about life. So this is a little bit about life. And this is the real stuff. This is like cutting away the bullshit. You're going to hear from a lot of smart people today. And this is great. You guys are all in e-commerce, retail, maybe you're social media people, maybe you're all blogging, maybe you're doing all of this stuff, but we're all human beings, right? And I really encourage you to live your life out loud and not let anything get in the way of what you're trying to accomplish as an individual. And I was confronted with a really interesting situation that kind of tested my mettle and tested what I stood for. I was training for a marathon, and my father, Adrian, was suffering from a disease called ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. Everybody heard about that? We've all heard about that because social media phenomenon, the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, right? My dad loved that. And I was training for the marathon to raise money for ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, and I'm going to run a marathon for my dad, and I had this vision in my mind. It's going to be the greatest thing ever, and I'm training. I'm not a runner. I lift weights. I played rugby. I'm not a runner. I was like, oh, this is killing me. I don't do that. But I'm running for my father, and the day of the marathon, turns out, my luck, Sandy hits. And they canceled the New York City Marathon, first time in the history of the marathon. I'm like, oh my God. And I find myself actually up at my parents because my father was living with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. They had a generator. So we're all up, piled into my parents' house, and we're all hanging out, and we're all spending time together. It was like kind of nice. Like, it was like family time that you don't really normally get. And we're all sitting around. They canceled the marathon. I'm like, listen, Dad, I'm sorry. And that night, I have a glass of scotch with my father, and we have a conversation, and I'm like embarrassed, right? I spent all this time training for the marathon, and now it's not going to happen. And I realize that as I'm like in second scotch deep, and I had a whole slip of Oreo cookies. I hadn't eaten for a very long time, but I enjoyed the Oreo cookies. It was fantastic. And I wake up the next morning. I'm a little bit hungover. I've been spending some time with my dad, and I realize that I'm like, there's nobody stopping me from running this marathon. I'm like, I just spent 8 months out of my life training for this marathon. So I tell my wife, I tell my brother, I tell my mom, and I'm like, all right, listen, I'm just going to run it around Chappaqua. I'm going to end at the Pleasantville High School, and I'm gonna go ahead and run the marathon. And it was really empowering for me to figure out that I didn't have to wait for anybody's permission to do this thing, to just go ahead and do it, and to do something that I thought was going to be really incredible. And I'm running around the track the last couple of miles there in Pleasantville, and something really magical happened. Like, as I'm running, a woman that used to train with me, she would just see me on the track. She's like, I'm sorry, they canceled the marathon. I'm running, and I'm like, I'm doing it right now. And she's like, what? You're doing the marathon right now? So she starts telling everybody at the high school. And all the kids that are playing soccer on the soccer field, as their games are starting and finishing, remember, I'm really slow, right? So the games are starting and finishing, and there's me still running around the track, and I'm dying. But like, this really crazy thing happens. All these kids start stopping their games, and they start like running behind me, and they're cheering me on. I'm like, holy shit, it's like Rocky. This is amazing. Like, this is the most incredible thing. But then they're all cheering, and then I'm like, I'm still not even close to finish, and my legs are cramping, and I'm dying. But then I see my dad show up. And at this point, he's in a wheelchair, and he's got breathing apparatus. And as I'm going through, I'm in the final mile. My brother runs over to me. He's like, what do we got? You finishing this? Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I'm finishing. And as I'm running down, the final moments, please hit play.
Get in there. Just tell me what I snap. This right here.
Let's eat. We're Italian. That was my brother at the end. Let's eat. Time to eat. So, unfortunately, my father lost his battle to ALS a little over a year ago. And when he died, just before he passed away, his last words to me were, keep up the good work. I'm challenging all of you in this room. Challenging all of you. Encourage someone today. Encourage somebody this week. And keep up the good work. Thank you.